Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
Hello and welcome again to another edition of Counterculture presented by Counterman Magazine. Founded in 1927, Arnold Motor Supply is approaching 100 years in business. And here to discuss the company's history and how it shapes Arnold's approach to today's challenges is Eric Johnson, the CEO of Arnold Motor Supply. Eric, welcome to Counterculture.
Thank you. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
All right, so we'll start with the 100 years. And you mentioned to me earlier about a 100-year mindset. Go a little in depth with that and how that mindset guides Arnold's decision-making today.
Sure. I think we really have to give a lot of credit to our founder, Mr. Arnold, E.P. Arnold. He was a visionary. I wish I could have met him, but he established some things that we see that as we kind of have dug into learning about who he was, we recognize his fingerprint on the company still 99 years later. And I think the 100-year mindset really kind of goes to a set of foundational principles, really, that defines who we are. And because we have those principles, just like anything else, anytime you're firm on what your main principles are, most of the rest of your decisions just flow from that and they're kind of already made. And, at its basic level, I think Mr. Arnold recognized people. He recognized the need, what people needed, how to best interact with people, how to best serve people. And, at the end of the day, a century has passed and a lot has changed over 100 years, but at its core, people are still people, and the needs of our employees, the needs of our customers are the same. And so this 100-year mindset really helps us kind of stay grounded, I think, stay focused on who we are and where we've come from, and try to not stray too far from that.
Eric, you mentioned foundational principles. I guess they could also be called core values here. One of those principles is changing the things that need changing, but never changing the things that don't. Can you share an example where that balance has been especially important?
Sure. Whenever we look, because that can be a little bit confusing, it's nice to say. And one thing that I try to really stay away from is coming out with quote unquote corporate slogans that don't really mean anything. It's pretty easy to throw out whatever the buzzword of the day is. And so when we say that we want to change things that need changing, but don't change things that don't, well, that immediately raises the fundamental question, okay, how do you define which is which? And the way I look at it, it breaks the dividing line between who we are and what we do. Who we are is the part that can't change. If we stray from that, then we're no longer Arnold Motor Supply. Even if the sign on the door still says Arnold Motor Supply, if we're not doing the things that make us who we are, we've ceased to be that. And so, then we define, okay, what does that mean? Who are we? And that's where we start getting into, we really are problem solvers. We empower people to make decisions, to solve problems. We really do things all about the customer. The primary focus of the business is not that we be successful. The primary focus of the business is that our customers are successful, and then our success just flows as a result of that. We never say no. A perfect example of this never say no. Back in June, I sent out an email to our stores, mostly out of my own curiosity, because I know we have a reputation of being outside the box and, doing things that go above and beyond for customers. So I just sent an email and said, hey, I'm looking for some examples. Give me an idea of what does that mean in practice. And I got back, I love some of the things that I got back in this email. I'll give you some examples. We had a customer who loves to listen to music and the radio when working, and the shop radio broke. So our store figured out a way to get a radio ordered, loaned him our radio from the store for 24 hours, whatever it was, until the radio came in and then delivered him a radio. I got back things like soil compactors, those things that vibrate to pack soil for construction.
Right.
We sourced one of those for a customer. Why would an auto parts store be buying a soil compactor? We had one case where one of the shop owner's wife forgot some groceries at the grocery store. And so we sent a delivery driver to swing by the grocery store, pick up the remainder of the groceries, and drop them off. We've bought sawhorses, vacuum cleaners, heating elements for somebody's oven. Just the list goes on and on and on about, in fact, we have one situation where a customer needed garbage bags or garbage cans. And so we stopped at Lowe's where the customer's wife works, and she checked us out as we were going through buying the garbage. That's just what we do. We go above and beyond. And so that really defines who we are. And then you get into, well, what do we do? How do we do that? What kind of a vehicle are we using to make that delivery? What piece of software is maybe determining the inventory? How is the customer interacting with us online? Those things are changeable. They have to change. Mm-hmm. And so I think the best way of defining that is that line between who we are versus what we do.
You said soil compactor?
A soil compactor. Yeah, that is the winner right now of I would maybe put that in a tie with fish tank aerator as some of the more unusual things that we've gone out and sourced for a customer.
Not just Arnold Motor Supply. I guess it's more than just automotive you're supplying.
We are not going to change the name, but yes, that's true.
Okay. Any company that's been around as long as Arnold has, almost 100 years for you guys now, has endured a number of challenges and massive industry shifts in the decades along the way. Are there any parallels you see between the challenges of decades ago and the hurdles the company faces today?
They really are. And in some ways, it's almost uncanny. And kind of like I talked about at the beginning, that at its core, people are still people. It's amazing to me how some things just don't change. And yes, the details of the challenges look different, but at the core, they're the same thing. A couple of examples that really come to mind, when we started in 1927, that kind of gives you an idea if you're a student of history, the Great Depression started in 1931. So we were just getting under our feet under us when that happened. And then we went right through the Great Depression into World War II. So here's this period of, probably not the greatest economic time to be beginning and growing a company. And I look at what Mr. Arnold specifically, but the company as a whole did during that time period, and you really see they were aggressive. They were aggressive, but they were smart about it. They weren't reckless. They weren't just throwing caution to the wind, but they recognized opportunities and they went after them. And, to me, the best parallel there is the biggest things that we as a society have seen in the recent years is probably the COVID pandemic. And so honestly, we use some of the lessons that we could pick up from how did Mr. Arnold respond to the Depression, to war? And we responded the same way during COVID. We were aggressive. We ramped up inventory instead of pulling back inventory. We ramped up deliveries instead of pulling back deliveries. And, so we weren't reckless. We weren't crazy, but, I think there was a good analogy there. Another example I can think of, that one of my favorite stories as I've dug into the history of Arnold Motor Supply is transportation, in the sense of how were we getting products. 100 years ago, when we'd order products, they'd be delivered to us via train. There were no trucking routes. That's the only way things could come in. And so there was a lot of turmoil going on when truckload transportation started happening, and there was the transition from truck to train. That same thing happens today as we've internally transitioned from, we used to provide inventory to our stores once a week, and then that went to once a day. And now we're down to some stores 8 times a day, some tours 2 times a day. But it is the same challenge. It's the same growth. It's just, expectations are now higher than they were, but fundamentally it's the same issues.
Normally at the end of these interviews, Eric, we ask to look ahead to 2026, and we could do that here, but I know 2027 is particularly special to Arnold Motor Company. So as we look ahead to that year and beyond, what are the biggest opportunities and risks you see for Arnold Motor Supply in the next century?
Well, as we look at our centennial year, I think among the biggest opportunities are somewhat to do with our geography. Being located where we're located in the upper Midwest, we really have good economy, good workforce to draw from. I think a lot of our opportunities for growth are going to be coming from the medium heavy duty ag sector. As you look at what e-commerce is doing with the way consumers purchase goods, we're seeing fewer miles driven of me hopping in my car and driving to the store in my car, and that's being replaced with a large delivery van bringing product to my house that I bought on Amazon, or more likely my wife bought on Amazon. But that's the way, things are happening. And so more than what we have seen in the past, we're starting to see those larger class 4, 5, 6 vehicles on the road. In our world, again, because of our geography, agriculture is really continuing to grow. There's always a need for agriculture as population grows, as new technologies find new ways to extract different things from different forms of agriculture. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for us in the medium to heavy duty and agriculture space, while continuing to obviously not take our foot off the gas in terms of the traditional passenger vehicles that we've been servicing for 100 years. But in terms of risk or challenges, you don't have to look too far around the industry to look at all of the consolidation that's going on. As the number of companies in our industry is shrinking, the number of suppliers from which to purchase and the number of customers to whom to sell is shrinking. The number of us in the middle is shrinking. And, so there is, with all of that consolidation, really comes the need for growth. And, so I think one of our biggest risks is to not manage that growth well, to either grow too fast or not fast enough, and to try and find that sweet spot of not getting over our skis, so to speak, financially, taking on too much debt, but also not becoming stagnant and not taking advantage of opportunities that make sense and that present themselves. So that's, I think if we don't grow correctly, we could be in trouble over the next decade.
Whatever the future holds, it seems like Arnold is in a good position to attack the challenges and risks. Eric Johnson, thanks for sharing Arnold Motor Supply's story and vision for the future.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
That is all for today's episode of Counterculture. You can see other Counterman videos by visiting our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.